I was rolling the stretch folks call America's most dangerous highway, I-95 southbound, mile marker 183, at 02:11 a.m., steady 62. Up ahead, tail lights fishtailed and a minivan lay dead on the shoulder, hazards weak, two silhouettes inside. I swung my rig across the lane to shield them. Then my dashcam caught what my mirrors couldn't, a lifted pickup charging the gore point. No brakes, drifting toward my trailer and that van. One air horn, one decision, and two lives on the line. Here's the frame that made me move. Drivers, tell us where you're watching from in the comments below. I keep a running clock in my head on bad stretches, and I-95 at 2 in the morning is a metronome for trouble. The lane paint there looks tired even on dry days. Tonight it was clean and cold, no rain, no fog, but the kind of stillness that hides speed until it's right on you. My dash showed 62, cruise off, thumb resting on the Jake like a habit I don't have to think about. The time stamp that would matter later, 02:11, glowed low on the cab cam. I said the mile marker out loud as I always do when something pricks the back of my neck. 183 southbound, numbers first. Feelings can argue. Numbers don't. The van on the shoulder was the kind of tired you recognize, hazards blinking uneven, two silhouettes in the front seats not moving much, a phone glow ghosting a hand. I eased over with enough room that my trailer would catch any blind rush and enough angle that my box would read like a wall, not a target. I put the four-ways on, dropped my triangles out with one practiced hinge of the door, and did what you do when you're the largest thing with the best brakes. You become the guardrail the state didn't have time to build. I called it in the way dispatch likes it done. Disabled minivan, 2 souls, I-95 South MM 183, right shoulder just past gore, tractor-trailer blocking for protection, speed 62 dropping. No lanes closed, I'm holding one open. Routine, calm, receipts. My voice always finds a lower gear when the night asks for it. They asked me to stay until a trooper arrived. I said yes because there isn't a world where I say anything else. Up close, the van told a longer story, rear tire blown to ribbons, a streak of rubber rash crawling up the fender like a question mark. The driver was a man in his 30s with that wide-eyed look of someone who made the right bad decision, stay on the shoulder rather than limp to the exit and die trying. His passenger, mid-20s, hair pulled back, breath fast, kept watching the mirror instead of me, which told me she understood traffic better than a lot of drivers. "We're okay," she said before I'd asked, which is usually code for, "We're not sure we are." I told them to stay belted, doors locked, engine off, lights on. I kept one eye on the lane, one on their hands, and one on the gap between my trailer and the white line. You learn to have 3 eyes, and on nights like this you use all of them. Then the lifted pickup appeared like a bad idea had grown headlights. He rushed the gore point where the exit splits off. Late decision, higher than stock, light bar on but not lit, tires humming a pitch that said either bored or angry. I laid on the horn and eased 2 feet further into the lane I was already guarding. My dashcam caught what my mirrors couldn't, the pickup drifting toward my trailer swing and that van's windshield, no brake stab, no downshift, like physics only applied to other people. He flinched at the last second. My horn put a wrinkle in whatever he'd planned and slid into the exit lane with a wobble that sent coffee spilling somewhere behind his dash. He missed us by a distance you measure more with your chest than a yardstick. If you've ever felt your ribs keep your heart from standing up, you know the distance I mean. He was gone to the ramp before I could finish naming his plate. I got the last 4, though, and the cab mic caught how I said them, slow and sharp, like cutting something you don't want to slip. I checked the van again. The driver laughed that laugh men do when they lived through a thing and their body hasn't been notified yet. The passenger covered her mouth and then took her hand down like she was embarrassed by her own relief. "You saved us," she said, and I shook my head because it wasn't over, and I don't like to borrow the word saved until the lights in my mirror are blue and red and bored. I called the plate partial in, mile marker again, time again. I learned the alphabet twice every winter, the radio way and the way people actually hear. The dispatcher asked if the pickup had hit anything. "Just my patience," I said, and the van driver smiled. "He'll be long gone by the time you reach the ramp," I added, which was me thinking small. I didn't know he'd choose a different kind of distance to measure. A CB voice bled into my cab like a familiar song, another driver 2 miles back asking if that was me blocking. I told him yes, told him 2 souls, told him lifted pickup just tried to write his own rules. He answered the way professionals do. "I can give you a second wall if you need it." I told him we were good for now. He signed off with his handle and a promise to call out anyone barreling. Promises mean something after midnight. Most of the world is asleep, so the ones who are awake owe each other more than bumper stickers. I stepped forward to check sightlines and saw what had been a shadow become a reason to keep my hand on the horn. 200 yards behind us in the taper, a small hatchback nosed onto the shoulder with its hazards off. It had that helpless angle people get when they lose power steering and think the car will lean toward the safe side on its own. It doesn't. It leans toward what you fear. I could see a phone in the driver's hand. I could not see a triangle, a flare, or common sense. I was stretched in 2 directions, my trailer blocking for the van, my eyes blocking for the hatchback, when the same lifted pickup reappeared at the bottom of the ramp, having decided life was more interesting if he came back around for another look. If you're wondering why he returned, so was I. My guess now is that he didn't return for us. He returned for himself. Adrenaline is a drug, and ramps are cheap. He swung through the intersection, merged fast, and chewed up the right lane with that careless high-speed tracking that's popular in videos and unpopular in crash reports. He was coming toward the hatchback angle that says, "I dare you to respect boundaries," and my right foot had nowhere to go but down on the brake. I laid on the horn again, a long blast from the center of my chest, and the hatchback driver put the phone down like it had burned him. The pickup did that dance some drivers do when their hands are writing checks, their eyes can't cash. He pinballed between the white line and the fog line, throwing gravel like confetti. He saw me, or he saw the van, or he saw his own luck, and at the last second, he took the middle lane that I'd left open on purpose for people who still wanted to live. He missed the hatchback by a margin so thin, my camera almost made it thicker just by recording it. He was past us again. He was not done. I called it in. Now the dispatcher's tone shifted a half-degree tighter. The words got cleaner. "Copy, lifted pickup, partial, Kilo 476, last seen southbound passing MM 183 into the 182s at a high rate. Units notified." That tone does something to the blood. It tells you you're not alone in the lane anymore. It tells you that sentences will get shorter until the right ones are the only ones left. I walked back to the van for the second time. The driver's hands were steady now. The passenger watched my mouth instead of the mirror. "We've got a trooper coming," I said. "Stay put. If I ask you to duck, duck." She nodded with a seriousness that put weight on the night in a good way. You want people to take instructions as if their life is in the sentence. Sometimes it is. A minute later, a trucker friend, same CB voice, now closer, arrived and put his rig 50 yards behind mine in a match angle, 2 triangles down, hazards punching through the dark. We looked like parentheses around the van. The hatchback, now understanding his situation in a way his phone couldn't teach, clicked hazards on and edged fully into the shoulder. Sometimes the best thing you can do is give someone a picture of what safe looks like and let them copy it. The pickup was gone forward. Fine, I'd see him again if the world was feeling Greek. Fate likes repeats. My camera doesn't care about fate, it cares about plates and time. At 02:16 the clock rolled. At 02:17 I heard the siren I wanted to hear. A single Doppler slide that tells you help is real, not hypothetical. The trooper took the middle lane clean, read the space, read our big shapes, and put his car on the shoulder in the triangle my trailer made. He decided in 1 second to make the shoulder not a place a person could die. I like that in a uniform. He was professional first, checked the van, saw 2 souls breathing, took in the tire, saw the hatchback now no longer dying to be on the news. Then he looked up at me and said, "You the one who called plate partial?" I said I was. "Dashcam?" he asked. "Always," I said. "Audio?" "Hot when the doors open." He nodded in a way that meant we would become paperwork together. I don't mind becoming paperwork when it starts the way this started. "Any sign he clipped anything?" he asked. "Just gravel," I said. "But he isn't breaking for anything but his own mood." He didn't smile. He didn't have to. He asked the van driver his name, asked the passenger if she needed medical, asked me to keep blocking while he dealt with the tire. That's a trooper's gift. Triage the right problem in the right order. Meanwhile, a second siren headed south at a speed that told me somebody else had called about our friend in the lifted truck. If you've never watched a trooper change a tire on a shoulder at 2 in the morning while asking questions that double as statements, you're missing another kind of service you pay for. He had the donut on in less time than the average argument. In the space between lug nuts, he asked me for the plate partial again, asked me to read the digits slow, then asked me to hold there while he keyed something I couldn't hear into a radio I could. A long second later, he said, "We've got a likely match 2 counties up, a pickup with a recent reckless report." Then he asked, "You willing to email me your footage right now?" The answer was yes, before he finished the sentence. I sent the clip with the 0211 near miss and the 0214 return pass, both with the mile marker reflection in the windshield, both with my horn and the pickup's drift, both with the hatchback's hazard-free idiocy. He watched them on my phone there on the shoulder in the light of his cruiser and nodded to himself the way people nod when their gut got a second opinion it liked. "Okay," he said, which is a word the good ones only use at the right time. The van was drivable enough for an exit. We pulled a convoy move, me out first, trooper second, van third, CB buddy fourth, rolled to the next exit at a humble pace, took the ramp without greetings, and pulled into a bright parking lot that smelled like soap and fryers. The van driver thanked me too much. The passenger thanked me just enough. I told them to go inside and use the bathroom and buy something small so the night felt like a tale instead of a debt. The trooper had one more question while we stood by the soda cooler hum. "What's your availability if we pull him up ahead?" he asked. "I'm on a flexible delivery," I said. "If my dispatcher breathes wrong, I'll turn and waltz, but otherwise I'm yours till dawn." He wrote his email on a card and his name under it and the case number above it. He asked what name to put on the report. I gave him my first and my handle because sometimes the world meets you that way first and remembers you that way best. Then his radio spoke the way radios do when the night takes a corner without turning signals. 2 calls ahead, it said. Near mile marker 187, possible single vehicle rollover into median. Witness reports lifted truck leaving scene northbound. No lights. He looked at me, and I looked at him, and the part of the story I hadn't said yet said itself in my face. We weren't done. He keyed back, requested EMS, asked if any units had caught a plate. Negative, negative. He looked at the van couple, said, "You're safe here." He looked at me, said, "You want to roll south another mile with me and set a block again? I've got a hunch about where he'll come back." We moved. The van stayed where paint and warm fryers make people brave. My CB buddy held the rear, angle ready. The trooper took the lead, and we built a moving box that leaves enough air for the dumb and the doomed to choose a better idea. I've made that shape enough times to write it in sleep. We took the on-ramp in unison and hit the lane we'd just left like the page hadn't been turned and the reader was still with us. The highway ahead looked clean enough to lie. Lies are what cameras were invented to beat. 2 minutes later, we saw what the radio meant. A smear of fresh dirt near the median where grass had learned a lesson, a plastic chunk that used to be a fog light, and skid ghosts that faded before they told you what they wanted. No car, no flash. Just a story that tried to finish itself without witnesses. The trooper didn't buy the ending. He pulled onto the median shoulder where it was barely a shoulder and keyed his PA to slow anyone with a mind to write their own poem. I set my rig at a diagonal again. Hazards snapping, triangles out. CB buddy closed the rear with his own wall. The lane became a sentence with commas where we put them. That's when the pickup came back the third time. You learn the sound of a troubled vehicle after you've seen enough. It's not the engine, it's the belief under the engine. He flew by in the left lane like he'd been at this party the whole time, and we were guests who didn't know when to leave. Lights off for a beat, then on, then off again, the kind of blink that screams, "I'm the main character." Boom! He saw the trooper, swerved late, and did the dumbest smart thing he could. He dove for the right shoulder as if hiding behind my trailer would make him invisible. He didn't hit anything. He just parked 50 yards past my nose and pretended to become a rock. The trooper didn't chase blind. He crept. That's a skill. Most people sprint. He rolled forward, giving space, waiting to see what the truck would decide about itself. I watched my mirror and watched the van's empty seat and watched my dash cam make a tiny note with a bright, patient dot. The pickup door cracked. A silhouette half stood. Then the door shut again. The brake lights pulsed like a heartbeat under a hand. I was writing the words I'd use later, time, distance, angle, when the radio spilled a sentence I wasn't expecting. Report from mile 187 scene. 2 pedestrians in median. Possible ejection. Unknown condition. 2 pedestrians. The highway went quiet in my head, except for the metronome of my own breathing. I've heard too many sentences that include ejection. You don't need a degree to know what that word usually means when it belongs to medians. I looked at the trooper. He was already talking to his radio, already calling a second car to my spot, already asking if the pickup at our nose matched the witness description. The answer came back with the pause that makes you older. Likely. We had one truck pretending to be a rock and 2 souls lying 5 miles ahead, needing someone to believe in numbers more than time, which is where my dashcam saved a second life it hadn't seen yet. Your clip, does it have the plate clearer on the second pass? The trooper asked me, fast, not loud. Better angle, yes, I said. Reflection off my side box. Last 4 solid. Send it. Now, he said. Not because he couldn't move without it, but because the county up ahead could move faster with it. I sent it while he inched toward the pickup like a man approaching a story that wanted to write him. You can do a lot with a plate and a mile marker in the middle of the night. Dispatch did. They matched the partial to a full, matched the full to a registered address 2 exits south, matched the address to a phone number, pinged a unit closer to 187 with a description that no longer depended on adjectives, and told EMS what they needed to hear. We have the likely vehicle. 2 pedestrians confirmed, 1 breathing, 1 unknown. The trooper stopped at my bumper and called to the pickup through his PA with the kind of voice men respect when they should. Driver of the lifted truck, put both hands on the wheel where I can see them. The brake lights held, the hands didn't. Then the reverse lights blinked once like a thought half finished. I tightened my grip on the wheel and looked at the space between his bumper and my nose and did the math I always do. Weight, speed, distance, what I can afford to hit, what I can't afford to let past. It is a simple math, with a painful answer if you get it wrong. And as the reverse lights blinked a second time and his door cracked that inch again, I realized the next decision in front of me would decide whether we were telling a story about almost or a story about afterward. And that's where I'll pause. The reverse lights blinked a second time and the pickup's door cracked that inch again. I eased my tractor 6 feet forward, enough to close the pocket between his bumper and my nose, not enough to touch him. Weight does the talking if you let it. The trooper's voice came over the PA, calm, even practiced. Hands on the wheel. Stay put. Behind me, my CB buddy mirrored my move and tightened our parentheses. If the pickup chose reverse, he'd meet a wall that didn't argue. He tried the third bad option. Opened the door, 1 foot out, 1 hand still on the wheel, indecision hanging off him like steam. The trooper didn't rush. He gave distance and gave the next instruction like a sentence you'd use with a friend you still hope will do right. The foot went back in. The door shut. The brake lights went solid. Then, for the first time, I saw his hands come up on the rim. Small victories count when the highway is writing in pen. Dispatch came over the radio with a tone that means the room is moving. Witness at MM187 found 2 pedestrians in the median, EMS rolling, second unit on approach. The trooper's glance told me what he needed without saying it. Hold the block, keep the picture clean, don't let a surprise enter stage right. I answered with a nod he could see in his side mirror. My dashcam's red dot sat there quietly, doing what it does, saving us from arguing with ourselves later. The second cruiser slid in behind, nose pointed down lane to warn what our triangles couldn't. 2 officers stepped to the passenger side of the pickup, while the first held the driver's sightline. The command stayed soft but ironed. Hands, key off, window down, step out. He complied in slow motion, eyes skipping between my bumper and the badge, like he was choosing which gravity to believe in. He stepped to the fog line. The trooper asked the questions that always start the same. Where from? Where to? How much? Why the passes? Why the lights off? Why the drift? His answers came out like gravel, loose, scattered, not helpful. When he said he hadn't been anywhere near MM187, the grass stuck under his bumper chrome told a different story. Do you consent to a search of the cab? The trooper asked. He said no. The trooper didn't push. He pivoted, asked him to walk a line that lives inside every trooper's kit. The line told its story without theatrics. They asked him to sit on the hood edge of his own truck for a minute. He did. The second unit started writing names into radios. The advisory came back fast. Plate matched the partial in my clip. Truck had been called twice tonight for reckless. A third call now tied to the rollover in the median. You could feel the night shift from wondering to working. Can you roll south and light MM187? The first trooper asked me. I'll hold him. That was an easy yes. My CB buddy and I broke our parentheses, checked mirrors twice, and eased down lane. A minute later we saw the scene. Fresh dirt clawed from the median's lip, 2 bodies in the grass, with EMTs already on knees. A sedan yawed nose first, like it had been trying to hide under the day. I set my rig at an angle that turned one lane into a promise. No one was going to hit these people by accident tonight. My triangles stitched the shoulder. Headlights spilled white where the stars weren't enough. EMTs moved with that quiet speed that ignores everything but hands, air, and bleeding. One victim breathed to a rhythm that wanted to wander. The other lay still, except for the way blankets flutter when people try to convince heat to return. I didn't crowd. I asked the senior what he needed from me that wasn't heroics. He said light and space. I gave him both, one knob click at a time. The dashcam kept its red dot steady like a heartbeat. A trooper at the median asked if my camera could hold for them too. Yes, I said, and read him my case number so his report could marry mine without guesswork. He asked about the lifted pickup. Stop 2 miles back, I said. Hands on the wheel, not the story. He nodded. The EMTs called the hospital with a code I don't repeat in stories, because codes don't help my listeners get home safer. Procedures do. The ambulance doors closed with a thump you feel in your teeth. When they rolled, a paramedic pointed at my bumper and gave a quick up nod, the kind of thanks people in uniforms hand out because moving on is the only way they get paid. Back at MM183, the trooper texted me a short request. Send that second clip too, the one with the hatchback and the return pass. Time stamps help the reconstruction. I sent it. He replied with a single word that carries a lot of weight at 2 in the morning. Perfect. Dispatch took those markers, pegged them against toll cameras and ramp eyes, and built a map that made a prosecutor smile later. I didn't know that part yet. I just knew the highway had stopped feeling like it was holding its breath. We cleared the median scene in layers, swept glass, taped bumper foam, moved a piece of fog light out of a lane that didn't want it. I pulled back onto the shoulder and waited while a wrecker cradled the sedan. The driver of that car would wake up in a bed with rails and learn he'd left a night he didn't remember. The passenger, the one carried away with the blankets fluttering, would later be told a sentence that turns grown men into children. You made it. I can't prove my camera made the difference, but the trooper told me later the timestamps we gave let EMS beat a clock they otherwise would have argued with. Sometimes saving a life is a race with paperwork. The dashcam let us skip a lap. We returned to the pickup. He wasn't sitting on his hood anymore. He sat in the back of a cruiser, looking smaller than his lift kit ever could. He'd said yes to a breath test and no to good judgment. The troopers weren't gloating. They were working, inventorying the truck, photographing grass beads in the grill, measuring dirt on the wheel wells like it was ink. I don't clap for arrests. I clap for processes that don't need clapping. The first trooper handed me a card with a handwritten add-on. Upload link, footage 02.11.02.18, and the case number underlined. You can roll, he said. I'll finish your statement off the audio, and thank you for the block. I told him the truth. The dashcam told me to move before my mirror did. He nodded at that like a man who's heard ghosts and knows sometimes they wear LEDs. 2 lives, he said, glancing toward the lit exit where the van couple waited to calm down. Maybe more. I eased off the shoulder and took the ramp to the well-lit lot where we'd parked them. Inside, they were sitting in a booth with paper cups and the look of people who were learning how big relief can be. He stood when he saw me. She didn't. She just gripped my hand with both of hers as if I might vanish mid-sentence. We can't pay you, she said. And I shook my head, because that's not what any of this is about. I bought them a hot breakfast and a spare phone charger, the smallest luxuries that remind a knight it can't keep them. On my way out, I left a fuel card with the cashier and told her to pretend it had fallen out of my hat if they argued. People will accept help easier from fate than from strangers. I'm happy to play fate when it pays for eggs. The email landed before sun. Footage received. Confirmed with ramp camera and toll log. Suspect vehicle tied to rollover at MM 187. Both victims transported. 1 critical, 1 stable. Your early block likely prevented secondary. It was signed by the trooper and copied to a reconstruction sergeant whose name sounds like a gavel. An hour later, another message arrived with the kind of sentence I never get tired of. Critical is now stable. I put my head on the wheel for a second and let a breath I didn't know I was holding come home. By noon, dispatch pushed a note to units in our corridor, a reminder about temporary blocks by private vehicles when done to protect disabled motorists, the wording careful but generous. Professional drivers may act as initial shields when safe to do so. Coordinate with responding units. It's not a law, it's an understanding in pixels. But understandings push outcomes in the right direction, if enough people see them. That afternoon, the trooper called with a human update. The pickup's driver would face a list that reads like a bad shopping trip, reckless, leaving the scene, endangering persons on a highway. He asked if I'd be willing to provide a brief audio statement to pair with the clip for the case file. I said sure, and dialed into his recorder, reading mile markers and minutes like a bedtime story for adults who need the truth to sleep. He thanked me before he hung up. I told him to send me the update we both wanted. He didn't promise. He didn't have to. I stopped by the diner where the van couple had landed late morning. They'd moved to laughter by then, the kind that sounds almost disrespectful to what they just went through but is really the body shaking off its debt. I told them about the 2 at MM 187. She closed her eyes for a second and then opened them with a wet shine that made my voice come out slower. "So your camera," she started. "My camera and that horn," I said. "Not heroes, just good timing." She nodded and pushed half her pancake at me like a tip. I didn't take it. I told them the tire guy 2 blocks over would be fair, and to refuse any towing the warranty requires from a flyer under the wiper. Flyers are just clipboards that learn to travel. A week later, an envelope came with the trooper's badge number on the return. Inside was a copy of a commendation line that read like a checklist of receipts. 0211 block at MM183, 0214 near miss recorded, 0217 van escorted to safety, footage forwarded, plate partial clear, arrest at MM184, EMS response at MM187 within window. Under it, a scribble from the reconstruction sergeant. Your timestamps let our map run faster than rumor. Good work. I don't put things like that on the wall. I keep them in the glove box where I store bad weather and second chances. People ask whether a camera really saves lives. Some nights it makes you move sooner. That's one life. Some nights it makes other people move faster. That's another. 2 lives is not a trophy. It's a bill you get to pay with sleep. When I think about that pickup's first pass, and the way my mirror missed what the dashcam saw, I don't pat myself on the back. I pat the little red dot, make sure it blinks, and talk to it like a friend I don't deserve. Keep watching. I'll keep listening. I still run that stretch of I-95, and I still say the mile markers out loud when something pricks the back of my neck. The paint is still tired in spots, and the ramps still tempt people who think they're the main character. But sometimes at 2 in the morning, when the air goes razor clean and the cab hum turns almost kind, I pass MM183 and MM187 and give them a nod. A trucker's bow to 2 pieces of ground that elected not to be graves. Drivers, tell us in the comments below where you're watching from, city, state, or the mile marker that raised you. And if you want more nights where receipts beat rumors and decency wins by inches, subscribe so the next run finds you right where you live. Next time, I'll tell you about a way station random inspection that wasn't, until my backup camera made it very, very official.